Welcome to the Simply Verified Beef podcast. I'm your co-host, Bree Patterson from the west coast of British Columbia, and
I'm Amy Higgins from New Brunswick on the east coast.
So today we're going to do our season finale for season 1 wrap up. We're going to talk about the last half of the season and kind of discuss some upcoming excitement for our podcasting crew. So Amy, should we jump into from January on, I guess, would probably be the best way, because we did a nice Simply the Holiday recap back in December, a little bonus episode, which I think we recapped the first portion of that season because we were a summertime to summertime season, unlike, I guess, other podcasts that might be January to December.
Yeah,
our year end is August.
Our year end is August. So like Bree said, if you want to go back and check out the recap on the first 5 episodes of the season, then head over to Simply the Holiday Recap, which was launched there in December. But since December, since the holidays, we've got a few episodes that are up that you have either had the chance to enjoy or can go back and enjoy. So episode 6 was Simply the Mentorship. Bree, you fielded that one. Do you want to give a quick recap on what that was?
You betcha. So people like to tease us when they think of mentorship. They think of Cattlemen's Young Leaders. They maybe don't think about the mentorship aspect of Verified Beef, but there's obviously an aspect of mentorship when it comes to making sure your employees are all trained up and ready to rock and roll with the Verified Beef program. But with the Simply the Mentorship podcast, we interviewed a couple of CYL mentee and mentors and the current CYL coordinator. And it was a fabulous conversation. Me and Amy, as we've mentioned before, are past CYL graduates from the 2018 intake or 2019. They also have a weird year end.
Yeah.
So that was the Simply the Mentorship. It was a great conversation. I think it's one of our longer podcasts, but definitely worth the listen. And then the next one was Simply the Steps. And that was the one we did together, right, Amy?
That was what we did together as coordinators to just sort of go over. We all know that we reference our episode 1 often, which was simply the audit. But Simply the Steps is just a few things of the background before you get to an audit that you can kind of think about and go through. So it was sort of a quick hitter and just enjoyable to go over the VBP process.
Yeah, that was a good one. It really was. It was nice to do kind of a quick recap, like you said. And then we jumped into Simply the Crew. We had a representative from a feedlot in Saskatchewan and a representative from Cow-Calf. And I think they also had other enterprises as well from the East Coast. And they discussed the importance of having your crew or your employees all organized and well managed to not just to the Verified Beef program, but just how to make a inclusive and well-oiled machine when it comes to having employees on your operation.
And I do remember having trouble with what to name this one because originally I wanted to call it Simply the Staff, but not all farms and ranches have formal staff per se. Crew might just be who's helping you on branding day or processing day or whatever the case may be. So that's why we went with Simply the Crew.
I think it's a catchy name too.
I hope that made sense.
Makes sense to me. And I think this recap will definitely help people as well.
Episode 9 was Simply the Water, and Bree led this one as well because for personal and professional reasons, because they had some flooding last year in Merritt and where she was and in a lot of British Columbia. So there was some things that had to do with that, with water conservation groups and thinking about what those planning needs might be for Simply the Water. So that was a really interesting one, regardless of where you live in the country, because we've all had probably some scares around flooding and just how fast water moves and how it can really change the landscape once it starts moving.
And I think the irony is when I recorded that, it was about a month or a few weeks before the province of Manitoba flooded. And now I'm sure, obviously, you guys will be listening to this in August of 2022. But in between our recording time right now and when you'll be listening to it, there's been other flooding throughout North America. So very timely. If you want to go re-listen to that, we had a producer from BC and a coordinator with Cows and Fish in Alberta to speak to that one.
And then episode 10 was Simply the Perks. And Bree and I also did this one together as coordinators because Farm Credit Canada had just come out with their sustainability initiative for giving a little bit of an incentive to folks who participate in programs such as Verified Beef Production Plus, who have loans with FCC and business on the books with FCC. So that kind of led to us just overviewing the different pieces of value add that Verified Beef Production Plus can get you, depending on where in the country you are working out of.
Yeah, that was a really good episode because we covered a lot of the national stuff and we touched base on a couple of provincial initiatives too, depending on what province you live in.
Yeah, you bet.
And our final one before this recap was Simply the Dark Gun, remote delivery devices. And we had Dr. Tamara come on for that. And it was a great conversation. Definitely worth the listen if you haven't already listened to it at this point. But I think all the topics we had in the second half, well, the whole season for sure, but the second half were really, really interesting and very diverse. So, and all of them range from about 15-ish minutes to about 30 minutes. So they're easy to enjoy and listen to if you haven't listened to them yet. So I highly recommend you guys turn on your Simply Verified Beef podcast while you're stuck sitting in the tractor, because it's going to get even better for season number 2.
And season 2, we've got some things planned, but we would like to give you some news because I'm very sad to say you're going to be stuck with a lot of me this next season. So Bree, do you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I think you guys will really enjoy having Amy because, of course, I ended season 1 really strong. So you're going to start season 1 real strong with Amy. It's only fair. It's only fair, guys. But as Amy alluded to, I am actually taking a short break from the Verified Beef Production Plus program in the BC Cattlemen's Association to go work for our Ministry of Forests in the range branch in my local community, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it'll be a great adventure, and I look forward to coming back hopefully in the new year, depending on how long this contract lasts with the government. But for those, who don't know me or have not come across me, that is just a real quick hitter of what's happening. But as I mentioned to Amy, she may have to have a range-focused podcast so I can come back as a guest speaker instead of a co-host and have some fun there. But it's been a great pleasure to be in your guys' ears for this first season. And thank you, Amy, so much for inviting me to join you in this initiative. It was been great and so much fun. So I can't wait to see how the season 2 of Simply the Verified Beef podcast goes off, because I will definitely be listening to it while I'm out on rangeland and helping producers in my local community of the Nicola Valley with their Crown Range.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on the move. And I'm sure we'll be able to see you again, and hope that your departure from VBP isn't too lengthy. But we know you're supporting the program wherever in the world you are working. So that is excellent. And so just a few things. The next season of Simply Verified Beef will have names in the titles all about practicality. So It's the next step. So you'll see some titles such as, and this is in no particular order because I can't make those promises as of right this instant, because we haven't recorded a whole bunch of them on deck. So practical sustainability, for example, practical emergency planning, which is a very important piece. And there's been a few examples across the country here recently about the benefits of doing some emergency planning, practical data management, practical calving with regards to biosecurity, continuous learning, practical genetic improvement, practical forage planning, mineral management, plastics management. So all of those things are things that we sort of plan to cover this season with guests, and hopefully you might hear me. I might recruit another co-host to help me in Bree's absence, but either way, we'll have some good content recorded that will be important to your businesses, and there are sort of the pillars of the Verified Beef Production Plus program.
Totally. And if we'll put a little caveat, if you know of someone or yourself who would love to be on a podcast, get a hold of Amy. Her information will be in the show notes as per usual, because we are always looking for great guests. And I know we've got some guests already lined up for certain topics, but But again, we're open to suggestions because we love to have as many people on this podcast as possible. It's been a fun way for me and Amy to learn about podcasting, and I have our own little debut in the talk radio type world. But if you're ever interested in being on a podcast, this is a great baby step into
a
becoming
starter podcast,
Yeah.
a starter podcast, if you will. And we did. It was a very exciting day when Bree and I got an email from someone who had a podcast topic for us. And we were like, yes, absolutely. We will fit that into season 2. We can do that. So the ideas, keep them coming. All really good. We're really open, obviously, to work with whatever ideas the listeners, we give the listeners what they want.
Exactly. That's what the Simply Verified Beef podcast is all about, is helping to bridge some information sharing between producers and industry members and give you what you want to listen to, because there's so many podcasts to listen to. And we so appreciate when you turn into our podcast versus the many crazy podcasts out there, because there's a podcast for every topic in the world nowadays.
Yeah, you bet. So with that, I guess we will bid you adieu, and I guess see you next month. I don't know exactly when this will come out, but we will see you in a few weeks, maybe. I'll put this out first part of August. We'll see you in a few weeks. And we wish Bree the best with helping the range, the local range units.
Thanks, Amy. And until next time, catch you guys later.
See you next time.
We'd like to thank our sponsors again, since without them, we couldn't have this fabulous show for you guys to tune into.
So thank you to the Canadian Agricultural Partnership through New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. See you next month.
Catch you guys later.